Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Monday to Friday, we're on STV Edinburgh and STV Glasgow. Delighted to have your company. And the main talking points tonight, John Collins is confident Celtic can get off to a winning start against Ajax in the Europa League on Thursday night. Aberdeen extend their lead at the top of the Premiership with a 1-0 win over Hamilton last night. Craig Samson is confident he can become the number one at Motherwell. And we're on Champions League duty again with a couple of English sides involved in this evening's matches. So much to talk about in the programme. Let's cut to the chase then. As far as the Celtic players are concerned, they've got to go and try and hustle a team that's expected to have the balance of possession, Des, in Frank de Boer's Ajax.
Yes, and it's going to be interesting to see how Celtic adapt to that, Peter. You know, more often than not, out with European competitions, Celtic generally have the lion's share of possession. So tomorrow night will be a different test for Celtic, and it's up to them to make sure that they don't lose anything at the back end, because quite simply, you know, the defending's not been good enough in Europe and indeed in Scottish football. So Ronnie Deila and John Collins will have been working with the players to try and make sure that they have a solid base to build on, and then hopefully hitting the counter-attack.
I was reading an article this morning, Ruffy. Jan Vennegoor of Hexalink believes they should be in their faces, trying maybe to go a wee bit more direct rather than trying to play football head-to-head with Ajax.
Yeah, well, sometimes you give some teams far too much credit. I think Ajax are the team they used to be. They certainly still have got flair players, there's no doubt about that, and sometimes they can hurt you. I think they have to get in about them, there's no doubt about that. You've got to try and get a goal. But as Des says, I think the problems are all at the back. I think we're all interested in seeing who that back four is going to be, and if they are going to be better than what they have been in some of the other European nights.
Yeah, I always like a wee bit of needle ahead of a match, and none better than Ronald de Boer's comments, and he says Dutch fans don't really care about Celtic in the league because there's no Rangers there. Not that will bother Celtic fans, Des McKeown.
No, listen, Celtic fans are there to support their team. They'll be hoping that Celtic turn up tomorrow night in Amsterdam, put on a performance, get some points on the table, and then return to Scottish football to win the Premiership. They've now dropped 5 points behind Aberdeen after last night's victory over Hamilton, so they've got a lot to do in the domestic scene as well, but the first priority is tomorrow night against Ajax.
And of course, some Celtic fans are slightly aggrieved at the suggestion that there's a wee bit of pressure on Ronnie Deila. But the facts are there for all to see, Ruffy. It may well be just a defeat to Aberdeen, but there have been poor European performances that have, basically put Celtic into the Europa League instead of the Champions League, where they really want to be. And the manager has come out fighting, saying, he knows it's not been good enough. They're in a slump. They've got to try and get out of it. Yeah,
unfortunately for the manager, he's told everybody to judge him on this, judge him on that, judge him on this. And all of a sudden, from being going on a good run, he's now going to be judged again with the failure to get into the Champions League. He's going to be judged in the Europa Cup, and I don't think anything will happen this year, but certainly if it continues, everybody talks about they have to win a double or a treble. If that wasn't to be forthcoming, plus the disappointment in Europe, then maybe the owners will have to certainly look at the situation.
Yeah, what do you mean by I don't think anything will happen this year?
I don't think Peter Lawwell will have a sacking in his mind at the moment. I don't think so. We're talking January. I think we're all deciding that they're going to win the league. So I would think he would just have to win a cup, and then at the end of the season it would be assessed, what's going to happen to him. I can't see him being sacked through the season. I can see them sitting down and looking at the last 2 years, and obviously there's a lot of money being lost in the Champions League. We know that's where they want to be. You're talking 40 million, 50 million. So if that is the be-all and end-all, bringing money into the club, then he has to go, because he hasn't produced what he said he was going to do. Yeah,
apologies to any Aberdeen fans living in the Central Belt, because I know there's a state of hysteria kicking in right now. 5 points clear. The manager's got a level head on it. The players undoubtedly will have that level head. But look at that table, Des. It's got Aberdeen at the top of it, and that really is something pleasing to the fans. 5 points clear. Now, a number of Celtic fans would remind everyone that there was a similar situation last season as well, but this looks a better Aberdeen side, and they were again posting a clean sheet last night.
Yeah, and I think that's important, Peter, and I think also Aberdeen at this stage last year had lost a considerable amount of points. and then came late with a challenge, and it was only the head-to-heads with Celtic that really differentiated the two sides. When you look at Aberdeen beating Celtic last weekend, that then throws in a different dynamic, and I would go as far to say that if Aberdeen were to win the league, Ronnie Deila should be sacked. Simple as that, and I don't think too many Celtic fans would disagree with that. However, they've got a lot of football to be played. Celtic's issue, Aberdeen settled Tony Docherty and Derek McInnes have got a very, very talented squad. I think Derek doesn't have as many players to choose from. I think Ronnie Deila potentially has too many options. He's got to try and get guys games. Scott Allen wasn't even on the bench last weekend. Izagiri didn't feature at all. Chris Commons watches Tom Rogic play off the striker. Chris Commons must be thinking, what's going on here? So Ronnie Deila's got a few questions to answer, but in Aberdeen's defence, and pardon the pun, they're building from the back as well. You know, they are strong, they're not giving away goals lightly. And then Adam Rooney, Johnny Hayes, guys like that, Niall McGinn, they've got real talent to go and poach goals as well.
Could have won the game by more last night, Ruffy.
Yeah, but it's a good sign, you know. Any manager will tell you, you know, you sit back, you take the win, you sit back, you look at how the game went. And I don't think there was any chance of them going to lose the game, but I think Aberdeen will be looking at it. I think it'll be easier for them this year because of the demise of Dundee United, Motherwell, you know, Inverness, teams that were challenging, teams that were taking points off everybody. They're not doing it so far just now. So if Aberdeen could get in a rich vein of winning games early on, that gap might be bigger on Celtic.
Yep, and Rooney pops up again, albeit with a penalty. He had a screamer of a header which produced an absolutely top-drawer save from Michael McGovern. But other than that, 13,200 and, I think I've written it down somewhere, 256 fans there, Des, which is phenomenal for a Tuesday night.
Absolutely, and that tells you everything, Peter. You know, the city and the support is getting behind the club, and I think that was evident, you know, through the League Cup win last year. It was a little bit, as I suggested, you know, early in the season where Aberdeen fans were expecting to start and build. They didn't start as strongly as they would have hoped to. 7 wins in a bounce now. I think you'll see next Saturday, home gate will be bigger again. I think 13,000 a midweek, just terrific.
It is indeed, and the game's coming thick and fast with Hearts next in the horizon, Ruffy.
Yeah, and again, you know, Aberdeen will be saying they're getting Hearts at the right time on the back of 2 defeats. But it'll be a tough one, there's no doubt about that. And these will be the games that people will judge Aberdeen and how they're going to fare. And if they were to go there, you know, and win that game, you know, people will have to sit up and take notice. Well,
absolutely. I mean, it could get unbearable because the one thing that you really do want, and I think we all want it, you know, a number of my friends who are Dons fans just keeps, you know, Facebook is just awash with the Red Army getting bigger and bigger and more confident, which I think the game needs it. You know, if you think about it, by next season, we could have a strong Rangers, an Aberdeen, a Hearts, hopefully a Hibs in the mix as well. And of course you'd love to see the Dundee clubs in there too.
That's going to be beneficial for everyone concerned, Peter. You know, you've got to think that players need to up their standard and be on it more regularly if indeed they are getting challenged. So from that perspective, I know lots of Celtic fans who are welcoming the fact that Aberdeen are going to push Celtic this season because they think that they're going to get a reaction out of the Celtic players, and Celtic will play at a better level than they have done in the last couple of seasons where they've pretty much coasted to the league. So from that perspective, that can only be beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, in the next part of the programme we will talk Champions League football. We'll also hear from Craig Samson, who's signed on at Motherwell until the end of the season. Just before we hit the break, Ruffy, give us your thoughts. Can Celtic defeat Ajax in Amsterdam on Thursday?
Well, on the evidence of the defensively, you know, you have to say that they're going to lose goals, you know, so then you're looking at, you know, have they got goals in them away from home? If they're going to go with Lee Griffiths up front, I still don't think that's his strength. I think he needs somebody up there with him. So I think it's going to be a tough one.
And?
I don't think they will take anything out of this game.
Wow, my veggie. See, Des, see what happens, you know. He goes round in a wee mazy and he hopes that you'll let him off the hook with the opinion. Des, you won't do that.
No, you're right, Peter. I think Celtic will get something from the game. I think too much is riding on it. I think there's too much at stake for Ronnie Dyle and his players, and I think they'll put in a battling performance and get a draw.
Okay, there you are. And of course, by the time we get to Friday, we'll analyse that in depth as well. Listen, it's not all great for English clubs in Champions League football. Manchester United and Manchester City losing in the top tournament in Europe. It's not often that happens. We'll discuss that. And we'll also discuss more from the Scottish League, including Craig Samson and the battle for that #1 shirt at Motherwell. It's all coming up after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is with me, Peter Martin. Des McKeown is our Bootroom guest tonight. Delighted to have his company. Of course, we were talking Europa League and Celtic against Ajax on Thursday. Also Aberdeen's win over Hamilton Accies, which takes them 5 points clear at the top of the Premiership. Today, Craig Samson was paraded as a Motherwell signing, and he is going to battle it out with Connor Ripley for the #1 jersey, along with Dan Twarzik. This is what Samson had to say on that battle ahead.
It's down to me to try and push Connor and Dan to try and get in the team. You know, I think the position as a goalkeeper is slightly different for the outfield players, but that's down to me to do as well as I can in training and try and get myself in the team.
Well, we had him on the programme. He knows how difficult it is. I was surprised he actually had to wait this long to get a club, Des.
Yep, he's a young man who has consistently delivered over the last few years. You know, at St Mirren and then at Kilmarnock. I think he made it into Gordon Strachan's squad around the Qatar game, June time. And it was a big decision for him to leave Kilmarnock when Jamie McDonald was signed. But I think Gary Locke had a fairly frank conversation with Craig Samson and said, listen, you're not going to be the #1, so fair play to Craig Samson. He was big enough to say, well, that's not good enough for me at my stage in my career, so I want to go and play. I thought he'd been snapped up before now as well, Peter. I have to say, I think he's technically a very good goalkeeper. He's not bad with the ball at his feet. And I'm sure in due course Motherwell will get the benefit of the signing.
You rate him, Ruffy?
Yeah, I've always liked him. I think he's got a presence in the goals, big lad, fills the goals, you know, good shot stopper, good hands. As Des said, he's very comfortable as well with the ball at his feet. Yeah, I was surprised a bit. It's one of these situations where you get when a manager prefers another goalkeeper, and it's all right if you're an outfield player, you could maybe wait your time and get a position somewhere else in the team, but when you're a goalkeeper you've got to make your mind up, and I don't think he'll go to Motherwell thinking he's going to be sitting on the bench. I think he'll honestly think he's got a chance of being in the first team.
Yeah, especially if Ripley has to go back in January, Des. Yeah,
well, it's a loan signing from Middlesbrough, so from that perspective it gives Craig Samson a chance, you know, to stake a claim, and you know, it's up to him, I suppose. You know, as much as Connor Ripley's got the gloves at the moment, you know, Craig Samson's got to work away in the background, and whatever chance he's given, he's got to grab it.
Yeah, and I always love a Lanarkshire derby, Ruffy. It's Hamilton Accies against Motherwell on Saturday. I wouldn't imagine Samson will be involved, but this one, Motherwell again trailing their great rivals.
Yeah, and again, you know, it looked done and dusted at the weekend until they come up with that goal, that late goal at the weekend. Derby games, like any derby games, you know, they can go either way, and neither of the two teams are setting the heather on fire, and it'll be a good game. It'll be a big crowd as well. I always like going to Hamilton when there's a healthy crowd there, and I think it'll be a good one to go to. Yeah,
in the last season or two, I think Hamilton have had the Indian sign over Motherwell, Des.
Yeah, they had a big victory, I think, start of last season at 5-0. It was maybe... Time flies that quickly, Peter, yeah. But under Alec Neil, certainly, it was last season, they had a big victory at Fir Park. So, yeah, I think Accies obviously defeated last night. You know, they've had a couple of decent results recently. I think they'll get into that game knowing that they can win the game. So I'm really interested to see how it goes. I'm actually attending, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I still think this is the real season where I think Ian Barraclough's side will get the judgment. I mean, Keith Lasley's been on the programme. They certainly don't feel they're going to be involved in the relegation fiasco of last season, Ruffy. You know, I certainly didn't see them down there last season, but even with a number of good players, you can't call it this season. It's so difficult.
It's a difficult one for Motherwell. You know, if you look at the team line and you look at the players that they've got, you know, you wouldn't imagine them where they are. I think Pearson's a big miss for them, but there's so much experience Obviously McManus, McDonald and Pearson was there, and they've got a good depth of youngsters there as well. You would always say to yourself, well, they'll dig themselves out a hole, but again at the weekend there it didn't look that good, and until they get the confidence to go out and win games, I think they'll always be there.
Yep, okay, that's Motherwell heading to Hamilton on Saturday. Don't forget, you can join us, Peter and Ruffy's Saturday football show. It all kicks off at 2 o'clock on STV Edinburgh and STV Glasgow. Join us if you can. Ruffy, Gordon Smith and Frank McAvenny will be our three on the main chairs, and we'll keep you up to date over the 4 hours with all the goals north and south of the border. Now, Champions League last night. No real pressure. He's only spent over 200 million and he's got a worse record than David Moyes. But I always feel, and I don't know if you share this view, Des, I always feel if you have a foreign accent, it buys you some time. And boy, is it buying Louis van Gaal some time.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, Peter. I watched the first half of the game against Liverpool at the weekend and thought it was torture. I know the second half certainly perked up, but I thought Manchester United, I think, have lost their identity. I think under Louis van Gaal, they have spent an inordinate amount of money, as you've mentioned. You know, it's close on £250 million. And I don't think you see that in the team. I just don't think you see the team clicking, and I know there's been a lot of new players again this summer, but I just don't see it, and I think they're miles away from where they would want to be and where they should be having or given the money that they've spent. Yeah,
Ruffy, I think when you spend that sort of money, you would be looking and saying, okay, you've got to be contesting the Premier League. I don't think the Champions League is something that I think anyone realistically could put any great pressure on them to win, because as Manchester City are finding out, you can't just buy your way into Champions League victory. It takes years of understanding how to play it, I think.
Yeah, but again, Peter is a massive club who have got a fantastic history in European football. There will be certain people out there who will judge them, there's no doubt about that, particularly with the amount of money he's sold. I just can't understand why you would spend that much money and not buy a decent centre-half, you know, because that for me is where, if you're going to go about spending 40, 50 million, there must be a centre-half out there who would be good value for money. For me, when your defence is so disrupted, it's just been scattered all over the place. They've never ever tried to rebuild it, apart from the boy, obviously, Shaw.
Yeah, double leg break for him. Difficult night in the end. They lose it by 2-1. So it's not the ideal start for them, and suddenly they'll be looking for someone to go into that full-back position as well.
Yeah, again, it's one where, you know, Luke Shaw had started the season particularly well, Peter. He was getting a lot of plaudits. He took a bit of time to settle in after signing last summer from Southampton. But I would think Daley Blind might be the one who will sit in that area for Louis van Gaal. Louis van Gaal's obviously worked with him previously at the national side. I would think that would be a fair chance that he'll sit in that area at this precise moment in time, because obviously Celtic have taken on Taylor Blackett that might have got that chance should Luke Shaw have not started the season as well. So from that perspective, it's about shuffling the pack and trying to get victories.
Will they be in the mix of the top four for you, Ruffy?
Yeah, I think they'll be top four. I think top four basically because the most of the other ones that are up there aren't showing any form whatsoever. Chelsea, for example, but you would think they'd be top four. But I think Manchester United have got enough to be top four.
Yeah. Any silverware this season?
No, none at all.
Okay, you heard it here first from Ruffy. That was him, straight, punchy, right in there.
I could have waffled there, but no.
Oh, I knew. Listen, you don't need to tell me. I know you could have waffled, Ruffy, but that was good enough for me. From one end of the city of Manchester to the other, Manchester City, Morata's goal was a peach to win it. But again, Manchester City, a classic. You know, you talk about teams that have spent fortunes, but they just don't seem to get it.
It's almost a throwback to the kind of Galacticos of Real Madrid, where buy every good player, throw them onto the pitch together and it will just happen. That's not the way football or indeed any team sport works, Peter. And as much as they are really dominant in English football and beating teams comfortably, Juventus, you know, the old lady, they know how to get results.
Yeah.
You know, they showed that last season in the Champions League. I don't think that's a game that you can really judge Manchester City whether they're going to be challenging in the Champions League or not. I think Juventus could take points off anyone, as it happens last night, you know, a fantastic winning goal takes all 3 points on the night. But Man City, I just think there's something lacking. I don't think they've got enough depth in terms of quality at the top end. If Aguero's not playing, I don't think they've got any, and I know there's not too many players that give you what Aguero gives, but I think without Aguero, they're a different proposition altogether.
Okay, Dynamo Zagreb, Arsenal. Who's winning that one?
Arsenal.
Arsenal.
Okay, what about Chelsea, Maccabi Tel Aviv?
Chelsea.
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 Yes.
Okay, and Roma, Barca.
Barca.
Yeah, there's a coupon if ever.
Barca.
Barca for you. Okay, Galacticos. Yeah, the original Galacticos were not too bad. They won the Champions League in 2002. I think it doesn't help really when you billet your manager after you win the European Cup. That's always a blow. Nevertheless, well done to Aberdeen. 5 points clear at the top of the Premiership, and they could extend it even further by the time Celtic get their game on Sunday. There's so much to talk about on the programme every night. Join us if you can, Monday to Friday, 6:30 on STV Edinburgh and STV Glasgow, with a repeat at 10:30. Thanks to Des McKeown, thanks to Ruffy, and thanks to you for watching. Good night.